And welcome to the 11th hour. I'm Steve Kornacki. I am not Brian Williams. I'm here in New York. It's the 11th hour on the West Coast. It is the 2 a.m. hour here on the East Coast. And guess what, folks? We are live because the biggest primary of them all in California, it is playing out right now. We are getting results. We've got suspense. I want to take you through what we know at this hour in California. Just to set the scene here again, big picture, what was at stake, what is at stake right now. 23 seats. That's the target for Democrats nationally. They need to pick off 23 Republican seats to take back the House. There are 7 for them in California that they think are very ripe targets this November. These are 7 Republican-held seats. These are 7 districts that all voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016. The question, California, they've got this top 2 primary system. Everybody, regardless of party, on the same ballot, top 2, regardless of party, advance. Are Democrats going to be shut out of any of these districts? Let me take you through the results that we have right now. The suspense, first of all, in the 48th district, the incumbent is Dana Rohrabacher. He looks to be set there. We haven't called this, but he is certainly pulled well ahead into first place here. Remember, top 2 make it. Will you see blue or will you see red there in second place? This is where it's most confusing and most chaotic right now. There are a lot of votes still to come. Now, you see a Democrat, Hans Kierstead, running in second place there, about 600 votes, 621 votes ahead of a Republican, Scott Baugh. The question, though, is can Baugh leapfrog him? Can Kierstead fall back? And also, when I say chaos, the question is this. There are reports from Dave Wasserman. He's with the Cook Political Report. He knows these things very well. He's saying he suspects there may be a tabulation error that could add to Ruta's count. We got spotters out there. We're waiting to see what they say, waiting to get some information. We don't have it yet, but obviously, if Ruta were to get some extra votes here, he could leapfrog potentially both of them and certainly make this even more chaotic there. Again, top 2 get through. Another race here where it's very interesting from this standpoint. Let's take a look. Can I get the 39th district up here? This is mainly Orange County, a little San Bernardino, a little bit of L.A. County as well. You got Young Kim, the Republican, out in front here. Democrats, this is a little bit, I'd say a little bit of mischief here on Democrats' part. That's what happens in these top 2 primaries. A lot of strategy there. Both parties just trying to make sure they get one of those 2, maybe try to get 2 spots. Gil Cisneros, this is a Democrat who won the lottery a few years ago, spent a lot of money. Democrats wanted him there. Democrats also, I think, lent a little bit of support to Phil Liberatore. He's a sort of grassroots, very conservative candidate. The idea for Democrats, I think, was to build some energy behind him to take away support. Oh, that's the wrong one. Can we show the second screen here for 39? Remember, there's a bunch of candidates here. The second screen for 39, can we show that? Because Liberatore's there at 13. These were the 2 candidates Democrats were afraid of sneaking up into that second spot. But if you got 13% for this more sort of grassroots conservative, that may be what Democrats need to get into the top 2 to make sure they are represented in the 39th. We also have the 49th district. There were lockout fears here for Democrats. At this hour, there really aren't. This is Diane Harkey, Republican. She's well into first there. This is second place Democrat, third place Democrat, fourth, fifth place, also Democrat in this thing. So Democrats look like they'll have no trouble getting represented there. Exactly who that is, that remains to be seen. We're also keeping an eye, though, on this. This one was not on the radar coming into tonight. Again, this is one of those Clinton-won Republican districts. The Republican incumbent, Jeff Denham, he's going to be first. He's going to be in that general election. Look at this, though. You've got a right-wing challenger there, Republican Ted Howes, who's not far behind, about 762 votes behind Josh Harder, the top Democrat. We will see a bit of a ground for House to make up there, but if he were ever to make that up, boy, that would be a lockout Democrats didn't see coming. Again, right now, if you're Democrats, you're feeling cautiously optimistic your candidate is going to make it, you're going to be represented there. So right now, we had the question going into tonight, are Democrats going to be locked out anywhere? Right now, I can't look at any of these and say Democrats are going to be locked out, and they've got certainly a very decent chance of not being locked out of any of these. And I think at a very bottom line, that was probably their goal heading into tonight, to live to fight in all of these in November. And Brian, we'll send it over to you now.
Our thanks to Steve Kornacki. We ask only that you not stray from the big board, as we're going to be going back to you with results as they come in throughout the broadcast. Checking in on other news tonight, day 502 this was of the Trump administration, and President Trump wasted no time again today lashing out at his own attorney general over his recusal from the Russia investigation. President Trump wrote on Twitter, quote, "The Russian witch witch hunt hoax continues, all because Jeff Sessions didn't tell me he was going to recuse himself. I would have quickly picked someone else. So much time and money wasted, so many lives ruined, and Sessions knew better than most that there was no collusion. To say that our president cannot let this go would be an understatement. The attacks now come so frequently, it almost normalizes this still new notion of an American president regularly eviscerating his own attorney general. And Jonathan Lemire of the Associated Press reports the president's anger toward Jeff Sessions has hit a whole new level.
He is so mad at Jeff Sessions still that he is actually in recent weeks, according to our reporting, he has stopped using Sessions' name. He won't say it. And so therefore senior aides around him in the West Wing have copied that. They just go him or her or him or that guy or the attorney general.
An incredible detail from Jonathan Lemire, who reports the president's animosity toward Sessions is now permeating most things in his path. Quote, on Thursday, Trump was on Air Force One returning from a trip to Texas, reveling in both a successful day of fundraising and the heads up he had received from economic advisor Larry Kudlow that the next day's jobs report would be positive, as we learned from the president's Twitter feed the next morning. But when an aide mentioned Sessions, Trump abruptly ended the conversation and unmuted the television in his office broadcasting Fox News, dismissing the staffer to resume watching cable, according to a person familiar with the exchange. We are tonight also tracking new developments on former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort, his mounting legal problems in the Russia investigation. Earlier today, a judge scheduled a June 15 hearing on whether to revoke Manafort's bail after prosecutors alleged he tried to tamper with potential witnesses while on pretrial release. NBC News reporting it this way. According to Monday's FBI affidavit, two people who were part of a broader effort to lobby on behalf of Ukraine told investigators that Manafort, while on bail, contacted them in an effort to influence their testimony and to otherwise conceal evidence. A spokesperson for Manafort released a statement today that said, quote, Mr. Manafort is innocent and nothing about this latest allegation changes our defense. We will do our talking in court. Also new today, Washington Post reporting that President Trump has become, quote, fixated on pardons. Quote, a White House official this week said Trump is obsessed with pardons, describing them as the president's new favorite thing to talk about. He may sign a dozen or more in the next 2 months, this person added. A lot to talk about. Let's bring in our leadoff panel for exactly that on a Tuesday night. Former U.S. Attorney Joyce Vance, who spent 25 years as a federal prosecutor. Michael Crowley, national security editor for Politico. And John Heilman, back with us in New York, author of Game Change and Double Down, co-host of The Circus on Showtime, in addition to being a contributor around these parts. John, take it wherever you wish. Sessions, pardons, Manafort, what are we witnessing right now?
Just another day at the hallucinatory ranch, Brian. It's like, you know, you just said almost normalized. We got to keep fighting to let any of this seem normal or be normal.
It's almost a daily basis.
Yes, it's more than a daily basis. It's a fusillade of craziness and things that we never thought we'd see. Look, there are a couple big important things here. The tweet about Jeff Sessions this morning, I'll say I was on Morning Joe, and it has become so common that we didn't really pause to let it sink in. That the president was essentially contradicting what his lawyers had said in those documents that we saw in the New York Times this weekend, where they said, no, Donald Trump always knew there was going to be a Russian investigation. He always knew it was going to go on. He did not fire Jim Comey in order to end the Russian investigation. Here, he's contradicting it flatly, in addition to saying the Russian witch hunt hoax, which is a word that there's a phrase that no editor of yours or mine would ever allow in a piece of copy that we wrote.
Well, at least it's in capital letters.
You know, so I think that's pretty important. And the other thing I think is the Manafort situation, which is super important. And look, I mean, you have to be pretty crooked to be committing crimes when you know you are under observation and under indictment. to go out and commit additional crimes while you're under indictment.
They recommend against that.
Yeah, Syria, boy, again, we've heard on this network all night about from experienced attorneys who say Paul Manafort has good lawyers, expensive lawyers, who would have said to him, there are a bunch of things you're not going to do. This is one of them. And to have done this increased his legal peril, given Robert Mueller even more of an upper hand than he already has in terms of leverage to try to get Manafort to flip on Donald Trump. It's a huge development. And also, I'll borrow from one of my co-panelists today on Nicole's show, who noted, maybe Nicole, that it does sort of betray the notion that if this is not a man who's convinced he's going to get a pardon, to go to your third topic. Because if you were convinced you were going to get a pardon, why engage in witness tampering?
Yeah, that's a serious offense. Hey, Michael, other than the sheer, almost daily, as we've noted, release of steam on the Sessions issue, is there any case to be made by anyone around this president that this continued attack on his AG, while they're all under investigation, is a good idea?
Well, first of all, Brian, I just want to point out that if he's not saying Sessions' name anymore, that may actually be an improvement, because several weeks ago what we heard was that he was referring to Jeff Sessions as Mr. Magoo. Yeah. So if I had the choice between being called Mr. Magoo or just being referred to with a pronoun, I think I would take the latter. So in that sense, things are looking up for Jeff Sessions right now. To your question, I don't see the gain for the president. You know, he can call this a witch hunt. He can call it a hoax. He can say no collusion. He does it several times a day. Fine. His base loves that. I don't see the profit in attacking Jeff Sessions, who, you know, is actually a big hero for the conservative base. He's also got a lot of old friends on Capitol Hill in the Senate. People like Mitch McConnell don't like hearing the president talk that way. And again, to that point of his former colleagues on Capitol Hill, you know, they may basically be with Trump when it comes to the Russia investigation. They want to have his back. I think when it starts to get personal with a guy that they know well, they think is honorable, they hate to see him treated that way, it just sort of burns needless capital for the president. So I think, to me, I just see it as an example of a president who's not thinking entirely clearly or rationally. He can't restrain his impulses. And when it comes to the Russia investigation, he just kind of blows a gasket and doesn't know what he's doing and doesn't think it through.
Joyce, we've been wanting to talk to you since we read this court filing on Mr. Manafort. It's one thing for us lay people to go through it, and certain parts of it really read like a clear and present danger. It's active wording. How did it read to you? What did you take away from this?
It's a really interesting pleading, Brian. On the technical legal side of things, one of the conditions of Paul Manafort's release is that he not commit another federal crime. So now the government has brought before the judge probable cause to believe he's tampered with a witness, and that's a good reason to revoke his bond. In the 2 or 3 times I had this happen in my career, everyone on the prosecution team got incredibly angry and immediately went to the judge asking that the defendant be taken into custody pending trial, because the worst case situation is a defendant who's out trying to influence witnesses and avoid the fair trial that the people of the United States are entitled to in these cases. So that's likely the reaction here. What's incredibly interesting is that Manafort would have done this, no doubt, despite the advice of counsel, who would have cautioned him against doing anything like this. And the question is, why did he do it? What did he think he had to benefit from, or what was so dangerous that he wanted to steer these witnesses away from discussing it candidly in his trial?
Yeah, questions I guess we'll have to wait to get an answer for. Hey, John, I want to play you. You were present for the next quote during our 4 p.m. broadcast. We've already seen a highlight reel of you once. Yeah. This is Harry Litman, former U.S. attorney, talking about Manafort's next appearance in court.
Prosecutors hate this, judges hate this, and he's going to have to bring his toothbrush to court on Friday because the statute says if they find that this happened, there's a presumption that no circumstances exist that will get him safely there for trial. So there's the real prospect that he now goes to jail.
That really gets your attention.
It does. Bring you a toothbrush.
He's out on bail, to use a phrase from all the cop shows. But if that's true, on his hearing date, he's got to bring some essentials, because he'll then go into custody and remain there until trial.
Bring a toothbrush and a big bag of beef jerky, I guess, because you're going to be there for a while. Look, he's a 70-year-old man who's already facing on the charges that had previously were brought against him, more than 20 years in prison if he were convicted on all of them. And now he's looking at, I mean, well into the past the where let's go of this mortal coil. I find it, I agree. I said it on the show and I'll say again, I agree with Harry. Yes, prosecutors hate this kind of behavior. And in this case, I think they hate it and then they love it because he's caught. And once he's caught, if this is a game about leverage, and Bob Mueller is trying to figure out who are the highest value targets, who are the people who know the most about what Donald Trump may have done wrong. You think about Jared Kushner, you think about Paul Manafort, you think about Michael Cohen, who's now being dealt with mostly in the Southern District of New York, but can be part of this case also. Those are the guys who have been with Trump, even though Manafort, as Trump points out over and over again, is only part of the campaign starting in the spring of 2016. Donald Trump has known Paul Manafort for 30 years. Yeah. Paul Manafort, Roger Stone had an apartment in the building, but he was also Roger Stone's partner. Roger Stone was Donald Trump's political Svengali going back into the 1980s. He's known Paul Manafort forever. He knows what Manafort's business is involved. They have run in the same circles. This is a guy who knows things about Donald Trump's connections to Russian money laundering potentially, and other bad behavior that long predates the 2016 campaign, but that clearly, if you think about the scope of what Mueller is now doing, is all within Mueller's sights. And so when Manafort makes a mistake like this for whatever reason, it just gives, as I said before, Mueller that much more leverage over Manafort to be able to try to make the kind of deal that's going to get him the kind of information that he wants, if such information exists about the President of the United States.
It's a titanic tightening of the screw, and I'll remind you, the President says Manafort was only around for a very short period of time. Yeah. Hey, Michael, this use of pardons, the Washington Post reporting on the word fixated, do you buy into the argument that this may be how Trump viewed everything about the presidency, that it would all feel like pardons?
Yeah, Brian, it's so consistent with our understanding of Trump's mindset and his approach to the presidency, which, first of all, I think constantly goes back to the Trump Organization, where Trump was a CEO, everyone was loyal to him, his word went, there was basically no challenge to him, certainly no checks and balances. And in the presidency, it's the same thing. This is an ultimate fiat power he has. He basically waves a magic wand and absolves people, sort of like the inversion of condemning people to death, which I suppose, fortunately, he's not able to do. I don't want to imagine what he might do with that power. But no one can challenge him. His staff can complain, but Congress can't tell him he can't do it. The deep state can't stop him from doing it. It's almost a regal power, and I think he loves that fiat. I will say, Brian, I've been skeptical about this theory that some of these pardons are meant to send signals to potential Russia investigation witnesses. And then I read this Washington Post story tonight with this remarkable quote from Newt Gingrich, essentially saying just that, saying that these pardons should be seen as a message to potential Mueller witnesses, saying that help is on the way and Trump is willing to wave the magic pardon wand. I was kind of gobsmacked that Newt Gingrich would say that. Newt Gingrich talks to the president. I don't know if that is what the president thinks, but, I recommend people look up that story because it did change the way I thought about this. Initially, I just thought Trump liked the power for what it was. I think that's true, but it does make me wonder what else is going on here.
Sometimes refreshing to see people getting more direct these days. So, Joyce, the power to pardon indeed goes back to the King's England. As you and I have discussed on this broadcast, it's one of the fearsome powers we grant our president, and it only bumps up against the law if they are dangled or sold, but no laws are broken if, Scorsese style, you're trying to send a message.
That's true, but it's also not true. There's no doubt that the president's pardon power is exceptionally broad. By the same token, something that we've talked about is the fact that a president can do something that he's legally entitled to do. But but he can do it in a manner that might constitute another crime. And the best example is Rod Blagojevich, who surfaced in the last week as a news item, right? He had the ability to appoint a new senator to replace Barack Obama, but what made it a crime was taking a bribe. Similarly, if Trump issues a pardon with the corrupt intent to remove a witness that Mueller needs access to, that could become part of obstruction. It could be part of a conspiracy to obstruct, and it could really be his fatal downfall at the end of all of this.
The essential Joyce Vance, along with the equally essential Michael Crowley and John Heilman, our great thanks for starting off our conversation on this Tuesday night. Coming up for us, another White House staffer has lost her job tonight. This time, it's the aide who made that crude remark about John McCain's terminal cancer. The latest on what finally led to her departure. Spoiler, it wasn't the comment about John McCain. And later, the White House doubles down on its decision to disinvite the Super Bowl champ, saying the Philadelphia Eagles abandoned their fans. You don't have to be an Eagles fan to know that would not go over well in Philadelphia. The 11th hour just getting started, even though our music gave up there for a moment on a Tuesday night.
It's time to celebrate the guy who taught you everything. Stock up on Father's Day gifts at Men's Warehouse. Designer suits are $2.99. Plus, it's buy one, get one free on select items. Dad's gonna like the way he looks.
Do you use catheters? Are you using the catheter that's really best for you?
Oh, yeah. For years, I'd been using one kind of catheter, and I never knew that there were other really great catheters available until Liberator sent me samples to try. If I had not tried the samples from Liberator, I might never have found the perfect catheter for me. Liberator Medical sent me a catheter that was easier for me to use right out of the package. Now that I've found the best catheter for me, it's made my life much easier. My catheters were completely paid for, not a dime out of my pocket.
There are so many innovative catheters. Get the best catheter for you. Call Liberator Medical. Get your free catheter sample pack.
Call 1-800-844-1960. That's 1-800-844-1960.
The first survivor of Alzheimer's disease is out there, and the Alzheimer's Association is going to make it happen. But we won't get there without you. Visit alz.org to join the fight.
It would be nice to stay in a cozy boutique hotel somewhere along the coast. Not exactly sure where yet. But annoyingly, on a lot of websites, you can only see results for an exact location you search for. Well, Trivago does it differently. On Trivago, you can simply use the map, explore the whole area, and as you move along, Trivago keeps showing you all the hotels that meet your search criteria. And that's one more way Trivago helps you find your ideal hotel for the best price. Hotel Trivago.
Here you go, little guy. A cockroach can survive submerged underwater for 30 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. Not getting in today. Not on my watch.
Pests never stop trying to get in. At Terminix, we never stop working to keep them out. That's what makes us America's leading pest and termite control provider, because we do whatever it takes to stop them in their tracks. For a free pest estimate, call 1-800-905-6985. Take action to protect your home today. And if pests ever do come back, so will we. 100% satisfaction guaranteed. For a free pest estimate, call 1-800-905-6985 or visit Terminix.com. Terminix, defenders of home.
Tomorrow, a special American Ninja Warrior event.
This is Jurassic World night!
With Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard on a dino-sized course. Oh! And during Ninja Warrior, catch an exclusive sneak preview of Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. American Ninja Warrior Jurassic World Night, tomorrow on NBC.
Welcome back. The White House aide who made a crude and morbid joke about Senator John McCain's health no longer works for the president. It's been nearly a month since The Hill publication first reported Kelly Sadler's remarks that John McCain's vote on CIA director nominee, quote, doesn't matter because he's dying anyway. McCain, of course, is being treated for a malignant brain tumor. To date, neither Sadler nor the White House have publicly apologized for it. A statement today read simply, Kelly Sadler is no longer employed within the executive office of the president. More on that definition in a moment. Her offensive comments may not even be the reason for her dismissal. The Washington Post is reporting tonight that, quote, an official said the departure was not spurred by her McCain comments, but instead was fueled largely by an internal dispute with White House Director of Strategic Communications, Mercedes Schlapp. There are reports that Sadler blamed Schlapp for leaking her comment to the press while both women were standing before the president. As the New York Times describes tonight, tensions between the two had reached a point where Ms. Sadler and Ms. Schlapp were unable to be in the same room together. That's a problem. Back with us tonight, two of our longtime contributors. Eli Stokols, who we are so happy to say is now White House reporter for the Los Angeles Times, and Anita Kumar, who remains White House correspondent for McClatchy Newspapers. Welcome, gang. And Eli, what does this episode either reveal or reaffirm to you about the operations of the Trump White House?
Well, that reporting is right, that this is not about what she said, and it's never been about what she said. From the moment that comment was reported, the White House response was the problem is leaking. It's leaking, and we need to clean that up. And now you have this internal personnel dispute, and it's led to Kelly Sadler being let go from that position. We don't know if she's going to stay in the administration in some capacity, but there has been no further explanation from this White House about any of this. It's just that she's not working here, and it has nothing to do with that callous remark that she made about John McCain. There was never really a thought that she might apologize because, you know, culture starts at the top, and this is a president who has been saying you know, things about John McCain that struck a lot of people as off for 3 years, ever since the remark about liking people who don't get captured. And he's never apologized. There was never really much thought that there would be a public apology on this. And there's no indication that that has anything to do with the personnel decision made today.
Anita, you already know this, but just for our viewers, there's every possibility she could be employed by the administration writ large tomorrow morning. And the administration is a big place. The executive office of the president is kind of the president's payroll. But traditionally, the White House, old executive office building, have been populated by people called detailees who are technically employees of cabinet agencies but are detailed to the White House to work there. So again, federal bureaucracy is a vast place. All it said was she's leaving the executive office. But Anita, the question to you is, since we are still talking about what she said, this again lacks any real finality that say, an apology would bring.
Right. I mean, you know, this was a month ago, and this went on for days, if you'll remember, days and days where, you know, all that was going on in the White House, they were getting questioned and questioned about this, what she was going to do. Is she going to be, you know, reprimanded? You know, is there going to be a public apology? Finally, it has died down. And, you know, for whatever reason, here we are a month later, they've chosen for her to